Hello and welcome to a Firstpost POV. The first stage or the first phase of Donald Trump's peace plan for Gaza is almost complete. All the living hostages are back home and hundreds of Palestinian prisoners have been freed from Israeli prisons. Now comes the next stage, which is arguably the trickier phase. Hamas has to disarm and then give up all political ambitions in Gaza, and only then will there be a final peace deal for this 2-year-long war. The question is, will Hamas agree to this? And if not, how will Israel react? Let me put some of these questions to my guest, Caroline Glick, who is the International Affairs Advisor to the Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu. Thank you so much, Caroline, for speaking to us on Firstpost.
No problem, thanks. My pleasure.
Now, what is the Israeli side hearing from the Americans and the Arab middlemen right now about this demand that Hamas has to disarm? Is the group open to this demand, or are they still refusing to disarm until there is a Palestinian state?
Look, I'm not quite sure what Hamas's position is because it keeps changing. What is very clear is that our position is unchanging, and so are the terms of the agreement that Hamas signed on to, which is that it must disarm. So as Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump have made clear, it can be done the easy way by implementing the deal, or it can be done the hard way by Israeli military. So it's really up to Hamas, and Hamas has to make that determination, and we'll see how things go. But we are still on phase one. We have not received all of the hostages home. They're still holding onto the bodies of 23 hostages who were murdered in captivity. So we're still waiting for those, and we're still in phase one until they return.
Right. Now, in the past, the Hamas group has said that they won't disarm until there is a viable Palestinian state in West Asia. Now, let's assume that they stick to this demand. How does Israel go from there? Because the Prime Minister says all hell will break loose if Hamas does not disarm. Should we read this as Israel basically saying that the military operations and the war will resume unless Hamas agrees to disarm?
I mean, look, we have our military forces are in Gaza. We control most of Gaza. Where we are currently deployed, and through where we're deployed, we can very easily project our power on the rest of Gaza. And I think that you and the viewers can probably fill in the blanks yourselves.
So let me just put it bluntly: the Israeli position is that the airstrikes and the operations will continue if Hamas does not disarm. It's as simple as that.
Again, our forces are remaining in Gaza for a reason.
Right. But there's also a question of timeline. How long is Israel willing to wait until they decide that Hamas is not disarming and we are going to do it alone? There are some people who fear that the second stage of negotiations may just end in an endless deadlock where Hamas keeps talking to their Arab mediators through Israel through Arab mediators, but effectively does not promise to disarm. Is there a timeline in the Israeli scheme of things until which you are willing to wait?
I think that the time for promises is over. I mean, we have an agreement. It's been agreed to, presumably as well by Hamas, which is why we've come to this point where we're waiting now after having received the 20 live hostages and 5 of the hostages that were murdered and came back in body bags. We're waiting for the other 23, and we'll finish phase one when they return, and then we'll see. But again, we don't have to make promises. Nobody has made the promises were already made, and now it's all just about implementing them.
Is that also a red line for Israel, the returning of the deceased hostages? Say this process of returning those bodies takes longer than a couple of weeks, which it seems to be the case according to the Red Cross. Is that also something that would trigger Israeli retaliation and the resumption of military operations?
Look, right now what we're seeing is that Hamas was supposed to release all of the deceased hostages within 72 hours. It hasn't happened. We're right now checking on the timelines and making our determinations really just almost on an hourly basis based on Hamas's behavior. So right now we're waiting. More bodies are supposed to be released today, and we'll just see how the process unfolds. I don't feel like making any predictions.
Right. Now, there are those who say that Hamas could possibly agree to disarm but never give up its political ambitions, that when there is a post-war reconstruction in Gaza, that they would like to play a role. We also heard President Donald Trump hinted that, where he said they would play some role in the short term. Is that something that's okay with Israel if they disarm but continue to play a sort of role in the leadership of Gaza?
No, I mean, I don't think that that's the agreement at all. And I don't know what the short term is. Right now, this is the short term. The short term is that the 20-point plan, we're towards the end of the implementation of the first step. And, we'll move on from there. But we have war goals. We achieving the first war goal, which is the return of all of the hostages living and dead to Israel. We've gotten all of the live hostages back. We're waiting for the release of the rest of the deceased hostages. And our other two war goals are to end Hamas as a military organization and as a regime in Gaza. And the third one is to prevent Gaza from ever posing a threat to Israel's national security in the future. And, the 20-point plan that we've all agreed to is setting about to achieve all of those world war goals, which is why we think it's an excellent deal. But, we have to go about implementing the deal as we agreed to in order for us to move forward. And that's really the whole point. The deal says something, Hamas agreed to what is said in that deal, and we just have to move forward.
What about the status of the ceasefire? We have heard some sporadic reports of violations. Both sides have accused each other of violating the ceasefire. We're hearing that 9 Palestinians were killed since Friday. Are you confident that the ceasefire is largely holding despite some incidents here and there?
Largely holding. I mean, people are, approaching our troops after they've been informed that they can't approach our troops. Then our troops obviously have to take appropriate action to protect themselves. That's their foremost job right now, is to ensure that their own safety. And after that, and we also are waiting again. Under the deal, the hostages who are deceased were supposed to have been released, and we're getting them in groups now, and we're waiting for the implementation of that part of the deal. And so in that sense, it's overall being implemented. Again, we got all of the live hostages back, which was a very big deal. Now we're waiting for the last 23 deceased hostages, and we'll see. But overall, as Prime Minister Netanyahu said, we're giving this road a chance. We trust President Trump, and we trust the IDF, and we're moving forward cautiously, obviously, but that's what happens when you fight a war against a genocidal terrorist organization.
Now, there is also some confusion about the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt. There were some reports earlier in the day that said that Israel would not reopen this crossing, but later, I believe the Israeli state media said that they would be open. Can you tell us what the official status of the Rafah crossing is? Has it been opened?
Yes, I mean, a lot of many trucks have come in with humanitarian supplies to Gaza today, along the lines that we agreed to. Obviously, we're now sort of setting the course for our relations going forward in the implementation of the 20-point plan. And so it's very important for us that Hamas keep its side of the deal. And so and right now, these days are when the patterns are developed over how things are going to go forward in the coming days and weeks, etc. So we have to make sure that they are implementing the parts of the deal that they've agreed to, and we're responding to their partial, mistakes, whatever you want to look at them as, in the way that we think makes the most sense. And again, these are things that are judged on a point-by-point basis, with the overall guidance being that we have to ensure that Hamas is keeping its part of the deal.
I'd like to dwell on aid a bit more, because the deal says that sufficient amount of aid will be transported to Gaza once both sides agree to this deal. And is Israel committed to allowing 600 trucks per day, which is what humanitarian agencies says Gaza needs, into Gaza during this period when the deal is being implemented? 600 trucks per day. Is Israel open to that?
Again, as the deal is implemented by Hamas, as it is fully implemented by Hamas, so it's fully implemented by Israel. But of course, we are committed to maintaining our side of the bargain, which is what we've done throughout and what we will do going forward.
What about the timeline for the withdrawal of the Israeli forces from Gaza? The Trump plan does not mention how many months or weeks it would take for Israel to gradually leave the Gaza Strip. Within the Israeli government, what's the thinking about how long this entire process of withdrawal could take?
It's all performance-based. It's all results-based. What are we looking at in the Gaza Strip? Right now, obviously, we're not going to be removing our forces because Hamas, they're killing Palestinians right now, and they don't have Israeli hostages any longer. So, this is the terrorist organization that it was on October 7th. It's just much, much weaker now. So, we have to make sure that it's demilitarized. We have to make sure that Hamas does not have the ability to harm Israel in any way, shape, or form. And so that's how we're judging the performance-based test of the process, and what's going to be guiding us going forward in terms of troop deployments.
Now, when you say performance-based, is this based on the Israeli assessment of things, or do the Arab partners or the Americans have a say in when they tell you to withdraw from the Strip?
It's performance-based based on the agreement itself, which is why you don't see any clear timelines.
But the deal does not say how you're going to judge this de-radicalization or demilitarization process. So what's going to be the measure through which Israel is going to say, okay, it's now time to withdraw? And because the government has not set out any timeline or any performance index either for measuring this.
Well, I think that it's all self-evident. Does Hamas have the ability to harm Israel or not? Do they have the weapons to wage attacks against Israel or not? Are they in a position to do so or not? Do they control civilian affairs in Gaza or not? Those are the performance-based assessments that we're making, and it's not difficult to know the answer to those things. And we certainly are capable of making those assessments based on reality. The thing that's going to be informing our assessments is reality on the ground.
Finally, let's just talk about the long term. The deal also says that if everything goes to plan, there could be a viable Palestinian state in West Asia. But the Israeli government has not committed to that yet. Is that part of this deal still a no-go zone for the Israeli government?
For now, you have many different hurdles that have to be overcome before we can begin talking about that, and none of them have been so far. So why don't we let events unfold, and if it becomes relevant, then we'll consider what to do going forward. Right now, it's not.
But surely as a point of principle, to agree to a two-state solution could move things ahead, couldn't they?
No, I don't think so. I think that as a point of principle, we have to reach certain benchmarks also about the way that the Palestinians as a society organize themselves, whether they're doing it around the concept that Israel has to be annihilated and that Israel has no right to exist and that the Jews aren't a people and don't have a right to national self-determination. So long as that's their view, then obviously there's no room for these kinds of discussions. So it's not relevant now to discuss it. It's not a guidepost. The guidepost is, how do the Palestinians organize themselves as a society? If they organize themselves as a society around the concept of the genocide of the Jews or the annihilation of the Jewish state, then obviously there's nothing to discuss going forward. So the real benchmark is not whether you're going to agree to some hypothetical, it's whether this society is going to continue to organize itself around the negation of our society. And if that's the case, then obviously you're not in a position to discuss anything further.
But the deal does say that Gaza will be de-radicalized, demilitarized, and Hamas will not play a role. So in a Gaza that's de-radicalized, that is not ruled by Hamas, why isn't Israel still willing to say that a viable Palestinian state should be the end goal?
Well, we'd like to see that happen.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Caroline, anyways, for speaking to us, because these are very tense time in West Asia. There's a lot of confusion around what's happening on the ground there. So thank you for joining us and clarifying on some of those questions.
And exactly, the confusion is why we need to ensure that it's reality that's guiding us. But thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Caroline.
Thank you.
Want the facts?
The latest developments?
News that gets straight to the point.
Well, we've got all three just for you. This is Firstpost Live, a brand new show, your window into what really matters.
Don't miss it.